My name is Rivers Langley.
I'm Pat Riley. Hey, Brain Freeze Network listeners.
We are the hosts of the Goods from the Woods podcast, coming to you every week from Los Angeles, California.
Listen to the show. We cover a lot of different topics. The band Milli Vanilli. We've gone into Collision in Korea when there was pro wrestling in North Korea, and Ric Flair almost got arrested by the Kim Jong-il government.
We're talking celebrity restaurants. We're talking Nicolas Cage. Our show's been running since 2013. We've got over 200 episodes to choose from, so scroll down our feed, find something you like, and be sure to check us out. The Goods from the Woods podcast here on Brain Freeze Podcast Network.
Never made anybody saving the world from Solomon Grundy. And sometimes I despair the world will never see another man like him.
Two totally different songs about Superman.
Oh. Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is producer Richard, and across from me is the doctor himself.
Hello.
Each week. I don't know why I'm doing this all the time.
Keep going.
Each week we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC while fielding questions from listeners like you, Annie.
Watto?
Oh,
no,
man.
we won't.
No parts, no podcast, no deal. Oh,
What an insane impression to lean on so frequently.
yeah. I think there's just a very limited amount of different impressions either of us can do. I think
that's true. It's not like a deep roster or anything.
And then it's just like higher and lower register. So it's just like wherever something's in that spectrum is where it ends up coming out. It's just like it's more of just like, this is what I can do. What sounds like that?
Yeah, that's true. It's just approximations.
Oh, so this is we ended the first month of Patreon.
Yeah.
You all paid.
Yeah. I'm rolling in that sweet.
Oh, yeah. You know, they can see how much is in that.
Oh my God. I mean, I'm investing it responsibly.
Yeah. I just meant there's not much in there.
Well, yeah, I did the dive into the Scrooge McDuck pool. I really fucked up my back.
It's more just a small.
There wasn't very much in there.
No.
Yeah.
Not that would be any, like, even if there was
also,
lots.
Coins fucking hurt.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, regardless, it's not gonna be a good situation. But it was good. I mean, we can talk about it now.
Yeah.
But I mean, we did an entire 1 hour improv script for the Alfred Begins.
I think that's the fucking craziest thing we've ever done.
And that's, if you've gone back, that's saying something.
I mean, like, you edited it in terms of putting in, like, music and sound effects in that.
Yeah.
But the actual, like, us part of it was, like, an unbroken 50-minute improv session. And, like, neither of us are trained improvisers.
God, no. No. I mean,
frankly, neither of us are untrained improvisers.
Like, usually yeah, that's true. I make notes for all of the episodes we do.
Right.
Usually to give myself at least talking points for everything that we talk about.
Oh, maybe I should do that.
The only thing I wrote for that was just literally in just like ... I wrote 50 years ago. Like, that was it. That's all I wrote.
It was like
I was like, that'll give me at least something to go from, and then I can just.
It was totally improvised, but it was also the thing that people asked for the most when we were like, "What do you want to see on the Patreon?" People were like, "Oh my God, just nonstop Alfred."
My favorite is that we were
like,
getting.
All right,
we've been getting. There was a new fan we got recently who's been like, "You guys should do the whole episode." I'm like, "Oh, friend, just wait."
But yeah, so we did that. We reviewed the pilot episode of Supernatural because I honored our agreement and I watched it.
That's right.
Did an episode about going down to Golden Age collectibles in Vancouver and sort of my comic haul from that. I think it's been like a fun variety of things, and like I think that's what I like about that Patreon, right? We're not sort of bound by our format. We can just sort of like talk about what we're talking about. There's some cool stuff coming this month too, including but not limited to our like out of the gate impressions of Aquaman once it comes out.
That's right. Oh yeah, we got to do that. So if you want the full uncut throbbing version of
Why is it throbbing?
I don't know, because it's new.
Get wet.
It's fresh.
Jason Momoa is
That's
Aquaman.
Right. That's right. That's right. My wife's sitting in a corner.
Is that the first time that you've heard me say that slogan? No. Oh, okay.
Wow, it took her a while to.
Yeah. Hey, DC execs, is it too late to change the posters
for the movie that's
like out in some countries?
Oh man, but yeah, I think it's been great. So if you guys are interested in getting those full reviews, plus we have some other really fun stuff that we're doing this month. And most of this month is going to be taken up by DocMas, because we are now in DocMas. I mean, that's
this is the last episode before DocMas. Mm-hmm. So like this is the end of regular.
We are now. This is the beginning of DCmas.
What?
DCmas, like Chris. It's DC Ember.
Hey, did we agree to like a name change or something like that?
No, I mean the thing's still DocMas.
Right. Okay. Sorry.
I was trying to come up with something for the whole month.
Can you just have a quick look for me? What's the name of the podcast? Don't you fucking change things without talking to me.
I'm so sorry, sir.
So at any rate, we're almost into DocMas.
DC Ember.
You're just so insistent on making it work.
So I mean, you guys are gonna get a lot of really drunk producer Richard for most of this month.
Yeah.
And just mildly like tipsy doctor.
I mean, if that.
God damn it, I'm so mad. Next year I'm drinking water. You're doing like tequila shots.
That's fine.
We're either gonna get you drunk or kill you. I'm one or the other.
I mean, you're welcome to try.
What a way to go.
Right? live on air.
Doing what he loves.
And then we publish it. Recording, we still put it out. It's like super tasteless. Like you just hear like the chest compressions in the background.
Hey, if that happened, I wouldn't put it out as a free episode.
Oh, you put it behind the paywall?
Yeah. I want to get something out of it.
Listen to the doctor's death rattle. Here, like, give me $5.
I'd make it a cheaper one.
Sorry, a cheaper level?
Yeah, I want
even
people
like milk more money out of it.
Well, no,
you don't think my death is worth more than the $5 a month our patrons are already paying?
No. Speaking of making money, we've got some new shirts that we just released.
We sure do.
I haven't shown you the other one. I should pull it up right now, actually.
Can we say what they are, or do you just want people to go and look?
No, we can say what they were.
The one that is fucking hilarious, and even funnier if you've listened to the second episode of our Patreon. It's like a broken pearl necklace and hashtag Alfred did it.
Much different than the pearl necklace I give to the doctor.
Would you fucking shut up? That's between us, man.
Sorry, I'm just so proud of being with you.
I'm not.
Such a shame.
I'm so ashamed. So what's the other one? I don't even know that I've seen the other one.
No, you haven't. That's why I'm pulling it up right now. I'm whipping it out on the screen.
No. Yo, that's a tight shirt.
Right?
It says Dr. DC Podcast. It's in the style of that like 70s, 80s DC Comics logo.
Yeah.
That's a really tight shirt. I dig that.
Do you see what the title, the logo, what the name of the shirt design is?
Distinguished copyright. Yep. We're basically like everything else that we do. We're just like skirting the boundary of good taste. We're just
and even then,
that's amazing. But yeah, so I mean, we've got the merch, we've got the Patreon, lots is happening. But this is the last episode before we get into DocMas, and so I mean, we'll get to it in a sec. But we're gonna close it out by
the way we started it,
by killing Superman.
Yeah. First it was Colin, then it's Superman.
Accident.
I mean, what?
It was an accident. Nothing happened. We weren't there.
Nope. We got a review.
Hey.
Yeah. I mean, you know about this one.
Oh, is this the...
Yeah. From Mrs. Dr. DC, with 5 stars on iTunes and the title, The Happiest Set of Fools. She goes on to say, I love these guys. mostly because I have to, but I do not actually have to love this podcast. But I do.
Circuitous.
Yeah. I learn more and more about DC every week, and I went from being someone who loved Batman as a kid to someone who genuinely is interested in all DC has to offer. These guys genuinely have a passion for this and deserve every star of this review. That being said, they can show their gratitude for this review by supplying me with a white wine. Prepare for so much white wine jokes.
Well, I mean, there's only going to be like 4 episodes worth, and then you'll pass out, and I'll just do the rest myself.
That's true. If you listen to last year's DocMas, I get real quiet around episode 8.
Yeah. The first 4 episodes are kind of, you'll get through them, and then we'll talk about comic stuff again.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll occasionally just wine, and then back to sleep.
But yes, that review is from my wife because she was several weeks behind listening, and then I've been sort of chirping the fact that she doesn't listen to the podcast, and she caught up like within a week, and every once in a while I would just hear like, hey, stop calling me. She'd hear all these different episodes where I was like, oh, she doesn't listen to this.
Well, there was a way she could have changed it, and she did.
Yes.
So
stop calling her out. I'm gonna get in fucking trouble, man.
I don't know. I'd have to come up with something new I can call her up for.
The last thing I need is trouble. I'm here recording instead of raising our child. So, come on.
Oh, do you need help?
No.
Raising a child?
No.
I have a particular set of skills.
Oh, I'm well aware.
That make me a wonder for people like you.
You might say that if you were concerned about the cost of a butler, that I could give you every penny's worth.
Oh, it's just like your last name.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Listen to the Patreon.
Yeah,
subscribe
if you like that.
That was a little sample.
All right, let's head to the news.
Let's do it.
Real news. Wow, you're just committing. I'm surprised. I'm ashamed I ever did that. The first piece of news is the CW releases several new Elseworlds photos.
Yeah, so more photos come for the upcoming crossover, but even more cool than that is they released like a teaser,
which I didn't even know. I think I need to look at it.
And it's fucking dope. Pull it up. Let's go to the tape.
Yeah. Because that's something that exists.
Go to the tape.
Sorry, sir. That was so cool.
Yeah. So that promo takes place on Earth 90. There's a lot of like downed superheroes. We see Stargirl. I'm pretty sure you can see like the Smallville version of Green Arrow. You can see the Ray's helmet and Hawkman or Hawkgirl's helmet.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of that. And then it's the 1990 John Wesley Shipp Flash sort of crawling. He has a brief sort of dialogue with the Monitor who says that, they're all going to perish. And then he sort of speeds off. So you assume he must be the one that to go like recruit more hero help. But yeah, I mean, it looks insane.
It looks so good. This is also like one of the first times I finally I'm watching Supergirl.
Yeah, you've caught up on the Flash.
I've caught up on the way. My wife and I are like episode by episode watching now. No one cares about Black Lightning. Arrow doesn't matter. Gotham doesn't matter. But like, yeah, we started watching Legends of Tomorrow.
Right. Yeah.
So
you have like actual investment in this.
Yeah, like I care about all the little characters that are potentially going to show up.
It's next week.
Because I'll tell you, this is the first time a crossover and like the yearly event actually matters to me. So
I'm so excited for this. I just can't wait to see like that 90s flashback again. And
so who's the villain that we're seeing in this?
So that's the Monitor.
The Monitor, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So why is the Monitor important?
So the Monitor was actually like he's a good guy in the original Crisis on Infinite Earths. He's sort of a being from beyond the multiverse, who's sort of like stewards all of creation. He gets killed in the original Crisis by the Anti-Monitor, his counterpart.
Obviously.
The Monitors then came back after Infinite Crisis, and then there was like one for each Earth. And then they, in Final Crisis, disappear again, and there's an evil Monitor, Mandrak, and he's kind of like a vampire that feeds on like the bleed.
Not a screaming plant that comes out of the pot.
No, not a mandrake.
Oh, okay.
That's different. That is slightly different. Yeah, but the monitor is basically like next to the presence, like God. It's like one of the most powerful beings in the multiverse.
This guy seems not a nice guy.
No, so I wonder if they're going to lean a little bit into like the idea of like Mandrak, the dark monitor, or things like that. I'm interested to see where it goes. I'm super excited for this crossover.
It's going to be really.
It looks like it's going to be the most full of Easter eggs.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next thing is Zatanna movie was reportedly discussed by DC and WB.
Yeah. Now, added to the list of things that they're discussing that like don't necessarily make it out of development, Nightwing, Justice League Dark, et cetera, all these kind of movies. But yes, the fact, we've, I think, talked about it before in different contexts. The fact that any movie gets made is kind of incredible. So in the same sort of vein, even when things are being talked about or are in development, that's still like a pretty big step.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be super dope to see a Zatanna movie. And if that's a thing that they're talking about, I think that's pretty confidently moving away from a Justice League Dark movie.
Yeah.
Which you would assume she would be a part of. But I think that would be cool to have just a Zatanna film. We talked about that when we did our Zatanna episode. I think it would be dope to see her sort of just take the lead on something.
I feel like we've talked about it, but who would you like to see as Zatanna?
I don't remember who I would have.
I know, neither do I. So let's have new.
Who? That do you know who Jamila Jamil is? She's on The Good Place.
Oh wow, that's a really interesting take.
I think she'd be good.
Whoa! I didn't even think about. Now, what are you going from more of like a serious?
I think what tonally Zatanna is someone who in her personal life is maybe like serious and a little bit darker, but because she also has this life as a stage entertainer, as like she has to have stage presence and do crowd work and stuff like that. I think you can have sort of spectacle and fun and those things very naturally weave into that movie. Mm-hmm. So she's dealing with dark forces and demons and, like her dead dad and shit like that.
Yeah.
But then she can also turn it around with like sort of charm and a smile and flair and things like that. I think there's a good opportunity to find a balance between the serious and then like the fun. Like, I don't think it would be an outright comedy, but I think it wouldn't be a Batman movie. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I think that like it really depends on like how old you make her.
Yeah.
I feel like if you do a little bit like slightly older, you could do somebody like Mary Louise Parker.
Well, she's already cast in the DCEU though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not the first time someone's done two roles.
I think it would be in a cinematic universe.
Yeah. Or you could do something a little bit more comedy and do like Anna Kendrick.
Yeah.
I know my wife's making disgusted faces. She hates Anna Kendrick. And she's dead.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the pure thought of Anna Kendrick killed my wife.
You bastard.
Well, Anna Kendrick. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would pick her in the context of the DCEU, like with the way that those movies have been going. But I think there's maybe like a version of that where she would work. But yeah, I don't know. I kind of like, I like my Jamila Jamil. I think that was a good pull. I'm proud of myself. Yeah?
Yeah, my
I brought her back to life.
Wow, I
resuscitated her with a good idea.
She's so starved for it. It didn't take long. So, speaking of good ideas for movies, sure. We're potentially going to get a Blue Beetle, a Latino superhero movie, which has been apparently in development by DC.
Again, that development thing doesn't mean much. Like in terms of like what that is.
They could just be looking for a script from somebody to see if it's worth doing, right?
Exactly. But the point is that they'd be looking at doing a Jaime Reyes version, not Ted Kord. So Jaime Reyes uses the Scarab. It's sort of alien tech and magic. And he's like a young Blue Beetle. In a way, he's kind of like a DC answer to a Spider-Man. Like he's still in school, but he's also a superhero. And he's like a young kid, but he's got this this crazy superpower. Also, the Scarab kind of has like a mind of its own, so it's about balancing like who's in control and things like that. I think there's lots of interesting story potential, but yeah, it would be awesome again, you know, in terms of representation and diversity, to have like a Latin-led superhero movie like that.
And I think it really depends on the success of Shazam. My guess is if.
I think it would definitely, they would definitely try to make it more of like a fun movie like that. I think you're right. Maybe not quite as silly, although who knows? When we see more and more footage of Shazam, we might see that there's a bit more of a balance than that first trailer led us to believe. But yeah, I would expect a Blue Beetle movie to lean a little bit more that way than like Man of Steel or Wonder Woman or something like that.
Yeah, totally. Well, I'm excited for this piece of news because I am 100% caught up with The Flash. Speaking of 100, The Flash's 100th episode promo was released.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I actually haven't seen that.
Oh, let's watch it. I haven't watched it either, actually, to be honest.
Sound like a sad organ. Just also want to call your...
What? Sorry, what?
We call your penis sad organ.
Sad organ? Oh, because it's an organ. I get... Yeah. Oh, it took me a minute. Just didn't get it, but now I get it. I didn't get it.
Unlike that thing with... Was it the Donner Party? That's a sad Oregon.
Trail.
Yeah. Or like a disappointing pasta might have sad oregano.
I'm ready to just stop this entire podcast.
If you were bad at folding something, it would be sad origami.
Jesus Christ.
You better fucking keep all of this in. All right, let's watch this thing. 100th episode promo. I love the concept here that in trying to beat Cicada, they're going to like basically do like a greatest hits of villains. He's going to go back to like different
it's
eras.
A clip show.
Yeah, it basically is a clip show. Yeah, I fucking love that. Yeah, we're getting Zoom back, and we're getting Harrison Wells, Eobard Thawne from the first season, Savitar. Yeah.
I love when they go back to things that they've already done and like retell it. Normally I hate that in shows. For some reason Flash makes me love this.
The season 2 episode where he goes back and tries to like pose as himself with the Thawne Wells. That's a really good episode. So yeah, it's such a good concept for like 100th episode. Is like, let's do greatest hits of villains, and yeah, I think that's a dope idea. I'm excited.
So this one I'm really excited for because I'm really excited for the new Lego movie, Lego Movie 2.
Oh, this is like the actual Lego movie, like not Lego, like something else. It's just like the sequel to the Lego movie.
So yeah, so right. Apparently we've been getting a lot of trailers and stuff for Lego Movie 2 that's been coming up, but apparently the Lego Batman is going to be included within that movie, which is new information.
That makes sense. I mean, he was in the first one.
Yeah, but I mean, I just didn't know if that was going to happen. So for me, we only know that. But I mean, he hasn't showed up in any of the trailers yet. We only know that because the Lego Batman set has been released.
Don't we love it when like when the toys reveal things?
Exactly.
That was like some of the first that we saw of like same thing with like Ocean Master's costume and stuff like that with this upcoming Aquaman movie. It was like we saw toys first and then we saw like.
Have you seen the trailer for the Lego Movie 2 yet?
I haven't. No.
Oh my god, we should watch it because it just is super funny.
Sure, yeah.
And we're just watching shit now, so why not?
That looks very funny. So we did see Lego Batman.
Yeah, I guess so. So I don't know why it was news, but I said it, so it's news.
Well, all of that was for nothing. No, that looks very funny. I'm looking forward to that.
And
I like the first one.
This is the set.
Oh, Battle Ready Batman and Metalbeard. Oh, nice.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah, it's dope.
I love the little star though. It's getting so cold.
Oh, the pain.
No pain. I also love that they have like the Chris Pratt guy.
It's like all of his roles, like,
and it's actually voiced by him too.
That is very.
He's
funny.
playing 2 roles at the exact same time that are basically the same character.
I do enjoy that a lot.
It's super fun. All right, second piece of news here, or not second, but next piece of news here.
Yeah, it's like the 5th piece of news.
Yeah, I don't fucking know. Justice League Dark script was completed according to Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not just Zack Snyder telling us what could have been.
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro said that he actually had like a completed script, which means that process was further along than I think we thought it was when that movie didn't happen.
Yeah. Well, it's not that movie it hasn't happened. I don't know if.
But again, if they're just if they're even like thinking about Zatanna, I think they're trying to move away from the team movie. Then, right?
Yeah. But I don't know. Like, it just seems like it would be good.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Guillermo del Toro is a fucking master, and I'm sure that movie would have been dope.
Yeah.
But there must be some reason that it wouldn't happen. I choose to believe that he has a very particular vision and that he was like, oh, you guys
Guillermo del Toro has a very particular vision.
I like to imagine that he was like, oh, you guys like to interfere in the movies? Well, that's not going to fucking happen.
Yeah, no.
And that was sort of where that left off. But yeah, I mean, I'd be interested to read said script.
I know. Well, that's the thing. He's tweeting about it and posting about it now. It feels like he's trying to get some more momentum to make it happen. Or why is this happening?
Or
right?
he knows that it just won't happen, and he's like, yeah, okay, well, like, we know it's done, so I'll just, it's okay for me to say that, like, yeah, I had a script done. You're never going to see it.
It's such a bummer. Yeah. I really hope that we could see it. Well, speaking of things we won't ever see, DC cancels Batman and the Outsiders.
Yeah, so it was solicited. It was supposed to come out like this month, but it got it got pushed back and then it got canceled. Although I think even in the cancellation announcement, they were saying that it might get resolicited later. Who knows what happened? But like, this was something set up by Brian Edward Hill in his brief run on Detective Comics, and it was going to feature Black Lightning, Katana, The Signal, Orphan.
Yeah, Batman.
Jefferson, I made some upgrades to your suit.
Oh, damn.
I did what I had to do. I raised you when you were a child. You're like a son to me, Jefferson.
Yeah, dog. So stupid.
But it was supposed to feature all of them. I was actually really looking forward to it. It was on my pull list. And then, it's been canceled. I hope it gets resolicited, but I don't really know what has happened here or why it's not happening.
It felt really weird.
Editorial has like different plans for some of these characters, but like, you'd think if you knew someone was writing a story, maybe come up with your plans, either taking the story into account or you just don't let the story happen in the first place.
I mean, this is a thing that always kind of harkens back to my issues with DC in a lot of respects, is that everything feels really disconnected and that departments don't talk to each other. And
that happens at Marvel, though, too. Like, there are series that get like just unceremoniously canceled. Didn't that just happen to a Vision series or something like that?
Yeah, but I think that their media department generally tends to be pretty connected. It's just the comic seems to be disconnected. Here it feels like all of DC seems to be disconnected from
the problem with DC Films is Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Not necessarily true. DC.
That's true.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we're heading into this week's theme. So we end the year off with the way that it began, which is talking about Superman.
Yeah. I mean, this was Superman's 80th year. We did a big episode for the 1000th issue of Action Comics, and we talked about 80 years of Superman. And I thought we should.
But much like DC, we kind of sort of talked about Superman this year, but it wasn't really that big of a deal.
Yeah, it was like fine. But we thought we would close out the year by calling curtains on the Man of Steel and talking about some versions of the death of Superman.
That's right.
So I gave you Superman 75. Superman Volume 275, which is the death of Superman.
Which is great. It's going to be great in my collection. I'm just really happy you did.
No, I gave it to you to read. You have to give it back.
Sure.
I'm so generous. I'm going to give you my Superman.
Which is fun. It's got the logo.
No, give it back.
It's got the logo.
It does.
Yeah. Because this is like 93. What is this?
1992, I think. But yeah, so Superman Volume 2, number 75, The Death of Superman. Why don't you maybe just take us through the sort of brief synopsis? We'll talk about how we usually do, talk about the issue and then what we liked or didn't like. And
absolutely. I mean, so yeah, this was The Death of Superman, which I've heard about. I mean, it's a thing that gets talked about a lot in comics. It's a general, it's a pop culture reference, I think. I mean, wait, there's songs.
Why, yeah, Superman's dead.
Yeah,
Our Lady Peace, for those of you that don't listen to us within Canada.
I think everybody knows the juggernaut international musicians that are Our Lady Peace.
Who knows? I don't know how big they got outside of Canada.
I feel like it's not very
They were huge in Canada, though.
Yeah, with the lead singer like Rain Maida.
Rain
How
Maida.
could they not be?
Yo, that's a dope fucking name.
His wife is a musician too.
Yeah.
Chantal
Crevias.
That's right.
She has a name, Richard. She's probably bigger than Rain Maida.
Yeah, that's true. that is totally true. But yeah, so I've heard of this. I've never read it. It was something that I just knew happened, and I didn't really know that much more beyond it. Looking at this cover, I mean, this is an iconic image in DC and comics. And then just what it's simulating as well.
Yeah.
I mean, this is so you get sort of the tattered cape, sort of half-mast hanging off of a stick in a pile of rubble, sort of replicating the like World War II images after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. There was a lot of artwork that came out about that, and I mean, so they're clearly saying like this is a moment that changes like the world of DC, basically. So. I'll say it's short. I was expecting something for the death of Superman. Now maybe there was a big trade this is attached to.
Well, I mean, this is not a
deal.
story that only happens in this book.
Yeah.
So the reason that it's such a short read is that each page is only a single panel. They're full page panels,
which is like
the
I'm not used
comic.
to seeing that. Yeah.
In the lead up to this, like the issue before this was 2 panels a page.
Yeah.
The one before it was like 4 panels a page.
Oh, really? There
like
was
as it counted down to the death of Superman, it was like fewer and fewer panels. So then this one was just single page panels,
which really I think helps because this whole comic is basically one fight.
Yes.
Which just doesn't really happen very often in comics. I mean, you're trying to tell a story rather than just like, I mean, this is the Dragon Ball Z of comics. You're just one episode is just no, actually, if this was this, it would be a trade and it would be the beginning of one fight. That's how it would be. Just somebody getting ready for the fight.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's a fight. So actually, this issue is relatively story thin.
Yeah, absolutely. But it begins sort of, you jump right into the Battle of Doomsday.
Yep.
Which was Doomsday, was he created for this fight? Like basically for the death?
Doomsday showed up a few issues earlier, and there's a crossover with a couple of different series. But he starts in this sort of green suit, and you don't know who he is. And then as the suit kind of gets torn from fight to fight, you see like some of the bones, you see some of the gray skin and stuff like that. By the time we get to this one, he looks the way Doomsday looks.
Yeah.
But in the issues that led up to this, he had basically taken out the Justice League. And the Justice League at that time was like the Keith Giffen Justice League. It was like
Justice League of America.
Yeah, but it was like Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, Guy Gardner, Fire and Ice. Like it was sort of that roster. It wasn't like the original 7 or anything like that.
So in this battle, you're getting these sort of like weird laser jetpack dudes wearing wetsuits and goggles. I don't really know who they were.
I think they're from like Project Cadmus or something like that. Or like, they're essentially like like they're not officially the science police, but they're that like type of idea.
Yeah, it was very fun. Like being disconnected, not knowing any of the other story that was surrounding this. It was funny to just be like, "What are these weird wing dudes?" But so it's basically this gigantic battle that's clearly like had been happening before this, and you're sort of jumping into the sort of the middle of what is the sort of tail end of this giant fight. And like Superman's clothes are already ripped up, and they get more so as you kind of go through. And then you're introduced with there are fights in the sky and sort of going into these helicopters where Lois Lane is inside with Jimmy Olsen, and there's a helicopter behind that, and that's Cat Grant's helicopter, both trying to get the story, but like the helicopters are actually getting damaged because of this fight, and so Superman has to stop fighting and save everybody,
of course.
And then you get sort of this like close moment with Lois Lane where they're kissing, and then it's like dude, get back to the fight.
Well, actually, she's saying like, like maybe we've got to like go somewhere. And he's like, no, I have to
finish this.
I have to finish this.
But which I'm just like, what was he doing during this? Is he just like, are you guys done? Well, we were fighting. I thought we were fighting. No. Oh,
next round.
Yeah.
Soups, just we were fighting and then your girlfriend showed up. I thought we were fighting.
That's your doomsday.
Is doomsday here just I thought this was just between us and your girlfriend. Your girlfriend shows up.
I mean, I didn't bring my girlfriend.
Yeah, you don't see me.
Well, I totally have one. She's in Canada.
Yeah.
Her name is Bloomsbay. She's real.
She's totally real.
She's more real than yours.
I'll get her on the phone right now. Oh, she didn't pick up.
Oh, yeah, she's busy. She's an astronaut.
That's what they're fighting about. Superman's like, she's not real. He's like,
What'd you say? She's totally real. I love her.
That's brisk, baby. And so basically, at this point, Superman says that Justice League has fallen. Like he's the last line of defense at this point. Somebody needs to do something about this.
Yeah.
Whether it takes him everything he has or not, he needs to finish this battle. So I mean, what I think is really funny about this is the ads that you're getting in these. One, I love the Super Nintendo ads.
Yeah,
that's great. But like if you're a few pages in and you're getting ads about the death of Superman in this.
Yeah,
like again, it's called The Death of Superman, but as somebody who got this for the very first time. And I mean, it's 1992, 1993. There's nobody's like waste. Like you're not getting this spoiled for you. So you read The Death of Superman, you're like, it's probably not like they're not going to kill Superman. And then you're reading through this, and it's like, where were you when Superman died? And it's just like, oh, so it's kind of like spoiled the ending a little bit.
Yeah. That's a fair point.
I was kind of just like, oh, okay, well, that's weird. Like they really were just like, get these collectible cards for Doomsday's Death of Superman.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and I'm just like, dude, like just wait till the end, jeez. But I thought that was really funny. I mean, most of this is just this giant battle, but I loved the way that they did these full panels. Like it's some of the like coolest, most cute, like colorful and beautiful like panels I've seen. You can really like, I imagine a time when you would just sit there and you just look at the panels and you look at every little detail of it.
And again, there's not a ton of dialogue.
No.
And there's only, what is it, like 22 or 24 panels because they're full page thing. So it's a very like,
it's like a 5-minute read.
It's visually expressive. There's not really much to say at this point. We're not exploring the origins of Doomsday or anything. It's basically just like, this is the fight. It has to end. Let's see what happens.
Exactly. There needs to be an issue where the fight and death happens, right? So this is it. So then it comes down to sort of like everything's getting more intense. Even Jimmy Olsen's like, I've never seen him like this.
He's saying he's never seen Superman like this, basically like amped up.
Yeah. And it's just, his clothes are almost completely ripped off at this point. Like, he's getting all sweaty.
Beefcake.
I'm gonna Jimmy his Olsen.
No, Jimmy's clothes aren't ripped off.
No, I mean, whatever. But
what version of this did I give you?
I may have drawn in my own.
Wait a minute. This is the hentai version.
It's super #1 comic. I think somebody's calling me. My brother's calling me. God damn it, Robin. I'm trying to. Yeah, my brother's name's Robin. Isn't that weird?
Really?
Yeah.
See, you're a sidekick?
Yeah. Yeah, he is. He's going to listen to this episode. Yeah, he is my sidekick. I will sidetrack. The last time that I like talked shit about my brother, like was on the phone to him when I was a kid, like that I like hardcore was just like, you can't do shit, because at the time he lived in like Calgary.
Sure.
And I was just like, you ain't got shit. I was like, I could kick your ass anytime. And I was probably like 13, 12, something like that. And what I didn't know was he was on his cell phone, and he had flown home.
Oh my God.
So I was literally talking shit, and then suddenly he comes kicking the door open of my house when I was sitting in the living room.
That's fucking hilarious. That's some fucking just desserts.
Oh, that I was never expecting. That was probably the best prank he's ever done. That was really solid. But now he's mine. I also used to walk around the house. There was a song I learned in grade school. He's gonna be really mad that I sang this on a podcast. But there is a song that goes, "Robin in the rain, what a saucy fellow. Showers always make him gay." And I used to stomp around the house screaming it. And I would really lay on the gay part. This is before I realized that was an offensive thing to make fun of.
It's when we were shitty kids.
Yeah. And so and I would really lay in hard when it got to the gay part. You get real mad. I was a bad brother. Still am. So we get the final.
Oh right, Superman.
Yeah, Superman. Sorry. So we get the final punch, basically. As like DC deaths go, this was actually not that violent of a death. This was kind of just like they beat each other into a pulp.
Yeah, it's not like a stab.
No, like a snap. No. It was just they just beat the shit out of each other. But you don't really know what happened. All you know is that there was a huge punch, and they just immediately start like talking about this. This narration comes in that starts discussing how people will remember this moment. Yeah. They'll remember this battle. And then they start talking about how they will remember Superman and how they will remember Clark Kent as like a husband and a son. And it's very still like kind of like 60s and 70s in the like writing for this, where it's very much still like, hey, Soup's like, they even like were like, he's quite a pal. I'm like, this is like the mid 90s, but
I think those are specific references though, because there was like a Superman. There was a series called Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, right? So that's like it's like a deliberate reference to like the history of
that makes more
Superman
sense
in comics, I think.
But you don't really, but you're like, oh, I think he's actually dead, and you're kind of expecting it, especially with the fucking advertising in the middle of it. But you're like, oh, he really died, but you don't really know what else happened, and then only at the very end do you find out that they actually both died. Because at first I'm like, oh, is this just like Doomsday takes over? Like I didn't know. Like
it's true. There's not like a definitive panel where you see Doomsday die.
No, you just know Superman died. There was one.
Well, Superman is in like Lois's arms and says like, "Did Doomsday? Did I?" And she's like, "Yeah, everyone's safe." And then he's like,
yeah. And so you're just, oh, he's dead, but you don't realize that. Yeah, they're both fortunately Doomsday is fortunately dead. Some people have a lot of opinions about fortunately Superman died, but we'll get into that. But this was really interesting because this was during a time when Superman as a character was actually really popular on TV. This is right in the middle of this is right when Lois and Clark is kicking off. So
Dean. Yes. No, that's true. That's a good point.
And which is funny because the only reason why this comic actually
would the animated series have been out by then?
It might be. I'm not sure. But basically, Lois and Clark was super popular, and they didn't. They were actually in the process of. The only reason this issue came out, I did a little bit of research, which I don't normally do, but I had a little bit extra time. They were actually in the process of creating a wedding story for and they'd been planning for about a year to start this sort of this wedding between Lois and Clark Kent. Yeah. And basically, right when they were ready to start this story, basically the television department was just like, no, we're going to do that with the TV show, so you need to postpone that. And so they had to very quickly figure out what the hell they were going to do. And so during all these meetings, they started joking around, being like, oh, I don't know, we could kill him. And it turned out to be like they ended up at like a big conference or something like that. They ended up like making a comment about it, and nobody was laughing. And so I think that's the moment where they realized they were going to actually move forward with this.
Yeah.
So
what did you? We talked a little bit about it, but
yeah.
What are the strongest parts of this particular issue? Obviously, it's part of a longer story.
Yeah, so
both before and after. But if just looking at this single issue, what are some of like the strongest pieces?
I liked the art obviously is a beautiful part of this. There's not a lot of for story.
No, that's true.
But I think that I like the full size panels. I think that's and now knowing that they were building up to this, that's a really cool concept, and I enjoyed that a lot. There was sort of this thinking back about it too. I mean, you can clearly tell that they were they know that there's a legacy that they're sort of killing off here, and so there's the imagery of like Jimmy Olsen's a very like, oh gee golly, Jimmy Olsen in this, and you bring in both Kat and Lois, like you're getting sort of like everyone's here. It's all led up to this moment. He
gets kind of like a goodbye kiss with Lois, where he's got to go back into the battle, and they have like a moment.
Yeah,
you know.
So that I think those were really great moments, and I think that sort of the last page or two where they're showing like I can't remember were the heroes that showed up, but they were basically like we were too late.
Bloodwind is one of them.
But basically
later revealed to be Martian Manhunter.
But you get this sort of like, oh, he's actually dead. People are sad.
Yeah.
Wait for next week when you find out what or the next month or whatever when you see what the fallout of this is.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think those are. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's a 24 pages or something, and it's a fight. So as DC sort of comic book fights go, it was pretty good. Like it wasn't huge and bombastic with powers, and I think it's really interesting that most of Superman's like villains up to this point were villains of intellect.
Yeah.
And he gets beaten from a physical standpoint, which is really interesting.
Well, yeah, because I mean, that's supposed to be his wheelhouse,
exactly.
Right? That's supposed to be the way where you can't beat him. But there are panels in there where he's talking about like how sharp Doomsday's like bones are, that he's actually getting cut.
Yeah.
He's talking about like, oh my God, like I can't take more hits like this. Like I'm almost unconscious. Like, there's all these panels where you're like, holy fuck, like Superman's like getting beat.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then also because of how like sort of unceremonious the end of that fight is. It's just more hits.
Yeah.
But it just ended up being too much for Doomsday and too much for Superman. It's just like, it's not like a real like killing blow or anything like
or like
that.
somebody comes to save the day, and then it was just kind of like
it's pretty like when
they just beat each other to death.
It's not depicted especially brutally. Like I think it's still tasteful, but when you think about it, it's like it's pretty brutal that they just punch each other until they die. Like
it's very like not comic booky.
No, it's not, because it doesn't have sort of like a big splashy moment.
No, and that's why I kept like flipping the page back and forth, because I'm like, oh, he just
I think it's actually very sort of like respectfully done for something that's like two superpowered things punching each other. Like there's an element of like
it was like a bar brawl. Like
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Now, obviously, we already know that there's not really much story to this issue. Is there anything in there that like you explicitly dislike? Is there anything in this issue that's like, oh, I wish they hadn't done that?
I don't think they really needed to include the Lois moment. I get.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just felt like, whoa, and then suddenly the helicopters were just right there. Like
it's not important to say goodbye to Lois in Superman's death issue?
No, not really. I think they could have done it in a previous issue and had it just been like
take that, Lois.
one last conversation and.
Right.
I mean,
I like it. I like that they get a moment.
I think generally people don't get that last moment, and so it's just like in the middle of this huge fight, like Doomsday's just set off to the side, I guess, and I
think if you have that moment pre-fight, though, it's Superman already thinks he's going to lose, and that doesn't make sense. But when you have it like mid-fight, Superman's like, oh fuck, like I better get this moment because I know that this is not going well.
Yeah,
I think that is. It may be even more than being a nice moment for Clark and Lois. It's like it's recognition that Superman himself realizes what's happening in this fight.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was the only thing that was kind of like, whoa, this is very perfect.
Out of 5 tattered half-mast capes, what do we give Superman Volume 2, number 75?
I think for a single issue with so few pages, what it's trying to do is make you go, this is a really strong battle that is too strong for either of them, and this is an important moment and people are going to care about it. And then and if that's their intention, they did that. Yeah. Do I think it goes above that or makes me feel more? No, not really. Is anything outstanding with it? No, not necessarily. I just think that it's more about what this does for the comics in general, like what this means for DC. How does this sort of this wave sort of move across all of DC Comics, which is more of the interesting part of it,
and across comic books in general.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. Because I mean, you're killing the biggest character and the first, right? Like, I mean, so it's important, and so for that you have to give it some credit. I think as a standalone comic, I would say it's a 3. Like it does what it needs to do. It's an interesting thing, and you're killing a major character that's interesting. Doesn't really do anything outrageous. As for importance, I mean, it's a 5. Obviously, I think that it's one of the most important comics you could release. I just think it wasn't done in a stupendous sort of way.
But but for something as highly anticipated, I actually think it sticks the landing.
It does. Now,
because
it doesn't do a lot.
We will talk about Reign of the Supermen and where this story goes as we get through the questions.
Yeah.
But if you just imagine that the arc ends with this book, I actually do think it sticks the landing. It doesn't like flub a big moment, basically.
If this was the very last thing, I don't think it nailed it, because I think you're not getting.
Oh, really?
You're not getting enough of the. It's just like he died. Bye.
Well, but I mean, I'm not talking about the repercussions. I just mean they don't fuck up his dying.
No,
you know what I mean? Like there are comics where it's like this is the thing that's going to happen in this issue, and they fuck up the thing.
Well,
like, regardless if the lead up or the repercussions are good.
It's not like somebody just beat Batman to death, which feels like less of a possibility, only just from the fact that I would think that Batman would have seen it coming, and it just wouldn't. He wouldn't have let it happen. Superman's thing is that he's got a lot of abilities and powerful. He doesn't do any until at some point he does, but for the most part he doesn't do any training. He does he's just, I'm really strong. I'm just going to keep fighting things, and I have a good intention behind everything I do.
Sure, yeah.
And goodwill and love in an American way is the reason why I beat everybody.
Right.
So you could believe that someone's going to show up who's stronger at some point, and if they're strong enough, they could kill him. Yeah. And I believe that it's not like somebody shows up and they their laser eyes were stronger and Superman just couldn't beat him. It's like no, just it was blow for blow. Somebody was stronger.
Yeah,
I believe it. Someone's got to be, right. So
yeah.
I mean, there's always a bigger fish in the sea, and I think this is just showing that even Superman is vulnerable to that.
Totally.
So yeah,
sweet.
Death of Superman.
So now we put out the call for questions.
Oh yeah,
there are multiple interpretations of the death of Superman in media, in comics. There's the animated film just came out this year, which was an adaptation of this sort of first part of the story. Reign of the Supermen is coming. But yeah, so we got a bunch of questions. Why don't we
let's jump into it?
Let's do it.
First, we're heading on over to Facebook.
Going to the face and the book. Going to the Facebook.
No.
First question comes from Richard Waltmuth. Sure. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I mean, I'm convinced you're wrong.
Yeah.
Just the lack of confidence as you said it. I'm just.
I mean, the Richard Waltmuth?
Richard. That was Jimmy Stewart trying to say his name.
Richard, you're like Superman. I'll take a lasso and pull him down for you.
Yes, Richard.
Richard Waldman. Yeah.
I regret bringing Jimmy Stewart into this.
Richard asked, why did DC Animation make Death of Superman twice? So why did DC Animation make Death of Superman twice?
I'm so glad you're repeating it. I legitimately didn't understand what you were saying.
What do you mean?
No.
So he says, why did DC Animation make Death of Superman twice? Kind of new to the podcast, but if BVS could have gone a different way with Doomsday, what would you all like to have seen? P.S. Thanks for not killing me. Oh, because this is my
the other Richard.
Yeah, the other Richards. Yeah.
Some might argue the better Richard.
Some might be wrong.
So there's a couple of different things in there. So yes, there are two different versions of the Death of Superman, sort of big versions of the Death of Superman in animation. One is called Superman Doomsday, which was like a direct to DVD animated film that loosely adapts this story. It shows Superman fighting Doomsday and them both killing each other. But then from there, the story is like heavily adapted. The reign of the Superman, his return to life sort of section of it is heavily altered in that one. It's very very trimmed down, basically not what happened in the comics.
No, not at all.
But the lead up and the fight is relatively true. You don't really see the Justice League and stuff like that, but just like the brutality of the fight and the way that it kind of goes is relatively close to the comics. Not 100%, but it's a pretty good interpretation and very heartfelt. And then more recently, they're doing a more faithful adaptation. Now, the Justice League roster is like the Justice League, not like Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, not that one. But story beat for story beat, it's closer to the comics than the previous one was, and that's the one that just came out this year. And it's also very well done, actually. I really enjoyed that one. You watched that too, right?
Yeah. It was. I didn't really love it, but
I thought it was good, but
it was interesting. Yeah.
Sorry. So that's now why are there two? Presumably they're doing this one now because the first one didn't do it super faithfully. And so they're trying to do a one that's slightly closer to the actual beats of the story from the comic.
Did they need to? Not really.
Not necessarily, but it's also not like hurting anything. It's not ruining anything.
Yeah.
So it's fine. I imagine that's why there are two now.
I'm assuming these are fairly affordable to make too.
Yeah, I think so. Now, Batman v Superman. Yes, Doomsday is in there. And yes, we get a death of Superman. Doomsday stabs him through the chest really like horrifically.
Yeah, that's more of the DC deaths I'm used to.
Yeah, I mean, he's stabbed through the chest and then he pulls himself like further onto the spike and he kills Doomsday with the kryptonite spear. So the question here is, if you had to sort of reframe that fight or just change how that death of Superman happened, what would you do? Do you think, now you said you responded to the fact that they're just sort of beating each other. Would you have made it so that it was like a pummel death instead of a stabby death? Is that a change that you would make or no?
Yeah, because I feel like stabbing Superman is not really that easy of a thing to do. Was he stabbed with a kryptonite?
No, it's just that Doomsday is Kryptonian, so he got stabbed with like a bone protrusion.
But that's not. He's not made of Krypton, is he?
Well, but I think the idea is that because they are both Kryptonian, that sort of whatever their resistance is sort of canceled out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you were going to make a statement and do something that was more impactful, then beating them to death would be hard to watch, which could eventually make it more impactful because you're just like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh my God. And it just, if it makes you cringe a little bit, I mean, that could really make you realize how realistic it is. I think seeing him stab, you're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I guess that could have happened this whole time.
I mean, I don't really have...
I just mean there's been other Kryptonians. Why didn't they stab him? Like, I don't know. Like,
I don't really have an issue with how it happened in BVS.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense in the context of the movie.
Yeah.
And they tied the three of them together, right? Wonder Woman's holding him with the lasso. Batman snipes him with the kryptonite gas. Superman's using Batman's kryptonite spear. And, and in holding that, he's weakening himself as well, which I think is maybe also partly how he gets stabbed, is that he's so close to the kryptonite he has to use on Doomsday. I think there's that to it too.
Yeah.
I wonder if you switch it to make it more of a pummel death, if it maybe makes Wonder Woman and Batman less important. And not that that's an issue, but if the point of that movie is the Trinity and the if the dawn of justice is the point of that movie, then maybe it doesn't work quite as well. But interesting. How would I have changed it? I think I would maybe get rid of the Doomsday like laser face thing. Yeah. I think I would just have him be like a punchy kind of thing instead of like the additional power.
I agree with that.
And maybe the same thing with that energy discharge thing too. Like I would still maybe have him sort of evolving and developing the bones the way they did in the movie, but maybe without like the explosive sort of energy release thing. I think I maybe would have made him just sort of punchy. So maybe Superman still gets stabbed, but it's just the bone claws.
Yeah.
I don't know that you have to change the whole thing, but I maybe would have made it a bit more like that, a little less of the extra powers.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Awesome. So next question comes from our old friend Roland Sebas.
Roland Sebas.
The most interesting question asker.
Is he ill-tempered? Ill-tempered Sebas? That's an Austin Powers joke. That's a real throwback.
Sebas. Sebas, run. Run, boss, run. Roland asks, Cyborg Superman. Just why is he so OP? I don't know what that means.
Overpowered.
Oh, overpowered, yes. Why is he so overpowered years after the story arc ending?
Right. So in the aftermath of the death of Superman in the comics, we're introduced to 4 basically pretenders to the mantle. Steel, Superboy, Con-El, the Eradicator, and Cyborg Superman. So Cyborg Superman was Hank Henshaw. He is like an astronaut. He gets caught in this like sort of cosmic radiation thing, and he's presumed dead. But he's not. He actually ends up rebuilding himself. He's with sort of Kryptonian tech and all this kind of thing. He becomes a very major villain. He is extremely overpowered. He basically can go toe-to-toe with Superman for the most part, but he also has sort of tech abilities and machine abilities. He's been the Grandmaster. This is much, much later, much beyond Reign of the Superman. He's been the Grandmaster of the Manhunters. He has been part of the Sinestro Corps. He was responsible for the destruction of Coast City. He's a big villain, a very major villain. Why is he so overpowered? I don't know why. I actually don't know that he's overpowered. I don't think they've ever, I don't, in my opinion, I don't think he's been shown to be more powerful than seems reasonable for a character called Cyborg Superman. He's never gotten to the level of like Superboy Prime, who again, I would argue is not overpowered, but like appropriately powered given the context of the character.
Yeah.
I don't think he's overpowered, but to the point of the question, is he powerful? Like, is he dangerous? Absolutely. He becomes like a staple Superman villain. It's bad news when he shows up. In the same way that there are certain Batman villains where it's like, oh fuck, like they're back. Cyborg Superman has now become part of that. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's go to the next question from Chad Bokelman.
Bokel.
Chad asks, did DC Comics jump the shark with Doomsday? This was the monster that killed Superman, but because of the popularity of the series, DC understandably tried to capitalize on that and used him over and over and over again. Is Doomsday even a threat anymore?
Right. I don't think they jumped the shark.
He also attached an image of Batman holding an axe, which is kind of awesome.
Oh yeah, it's from a much later series where there are sort of like fake Doomsdays attacking the Amazons.
I see multiple Doomsday in here,
and the Trinity and the Amazons have to fight all these Doomsdays.
So the Dooms die at that point.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, and yeah, they like easily defeat them basically.
Yeah,
but I mean, in the moment, in the death of Superman. That's a powerful image. Just a beast of destruction that's so strong that it can kill Superman. That's very powerful. But he's right, I think. Doomsday's relatively one-dimensional. There's an idea that like he can never be killed the same way twice, that he like every time he comes back, he's evolved past the thing. That's the interpretation in the live action thing is every time they try to kill him with something, he turns that energy into more like defense, like more bones protrude or whatever. That's sort of how the film did it. But the idea is that he can't be killed the same way twice. But because Doomsday's only thing really is like destruction, it's not like he's like a crook or
harm not a crook
or psycho. Yeah, he's not Nixon. There's only so many places you can go with it, and I agree actually that I think he has been overused.
Yeah,
Doomsday in the New 52 gained the ability to teleport using the Phantom Zone, which made him a bit more dangerous. But then Superman like literally ripped him in half. And then the thing was that when he ripped him in half, it released Doomsday spores that could infect other people and turn them into Doomsdays. Like, to me, Doomsday's not that interesting at this point. It's just like a thing you bring out where it's like, oh fuck, like this really requires Superman's attention. Like he can't ignore this. No one else can handle this. That's like a way to be like, Superman must be occupied dealing with this. It's almost the story thing of like, he has to deal with this so something else can happen somewhere else.
Yeah.
I do think that they overused Doomsday. I think the character would have been far more impactful if you basically like rarely saw him. I agree. If you ever saw him again, right? But yeah, I mean, I would argue that Doomsday is not a threat anymore. We've seen him beaten so many times and in so many ways. I mean, technically speaking, if he becomes sort of immune to that manner of defeat, then eventually he becomes a threat again because there's no new way to defeat him. But I mean, it really, we've been through this started in 1992, and how many times have we seen Doomsday since?
It's
right?
True, yeah.
He doesn't have the same impact now that he did then. I would say.
I definitely agree with that. Well, let's leave Facebook and head on over to Twitter.
Twitter.
Hey, that was a pretty good one.
I think I'm back.
I think you are too. I didn't even hear a hint of.
I'm back, baby.
Oh. First question comes from Stump Chunkman.
Step into the Stump Chunkman.
Stump asks, why couldn't he stay dead? Hashtag Superman no.
Wow.
Bringing back an old hashtag.
Well, I mean, he was never going to stay dead forever. That was never going to happen. But and I'm going to expand this into a point I assume Stump is making. Superman returns to life very shortly after this. Like within like 8 months or 9 months, Superman, the actual one, is back. And I think that starts the precedent of heroes just dying and coming back almost willy-nilly.
Yeah.
You know, because there have been superhero deaths beforehand, but they're ones that didn't come back, or at least not for quite a long time. Barry Allen and Don Hall both die in Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they're gone.
Yeah.
But Superman, yeah, he comes back it's like within 8 months or something like that. And so there's a couple of sides to this. And one is that it basically made the whole story. I think a lot of people felt betrayed by the story because it felt like just a marketing thing.
Which, I mean, yeah.
But frankly, I mean, Reign of the Superman is it's a good story. I don't think it's bad, but because the way it was pitched, like this is the death of Superman. If you had pitched it more like what happens without Superman, if the thing was more pitched as like a, you know, Superman is incapacitated or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then people would have been bracing themselves for it, but to be like, Superman is dying and that's it. And then within 8 months, they're like, he's back. It was a Kryptonian healing coma.
Just kidding.
You know, like it's, we came up with this regeneration matrix. That's totally a thing now. I think that maybe people felt a little bit betrayed by that.
Yeah.
But I think it would be unrealistic to think that Superman was ever going to be permanently gone. From a narrative perspective, it might have been more interesting though if he was gone for a couple of years.
Yeah, I think I would prefer that.
I mean, he never would have been gone for 20 years like Barry Allen was, because even though Barry was gone, there was still a Flash. Wally became the Flash, and yeah, you got Superboy and stuff like that. But I don't think it would have felt quite the same.
No.
But if he was gone for a couple of years, I still think it would have been less. Like a fake out. It would have seemed less maybe cheap or something like that. Because it does actually detract from his death that he comes back so quickly.
A little bit, yeah.
And that becomes, I think that is like the starting point of that being a trend in comics. You know, by the time you get to Blackest Night, they riff on it. They say like, look at how many of us have died and come back.
It's true,
you know,
yeah.
And it's true. Most heroes go through that at some point, and certainly in this era, in the 90s, that was almost like the flavor of the week. Is like, let's get rid of the heroes you love. We'll bring in like a gritty younger version, then we'll bring back the heroes you love. So, yeah, why couldn't he stay dead? But because of money.
Yeah, mostly. Yeah,
it's Superman. That was never going to be a permanent thing.
Do I think that he should have stayed dead for a few years?
For a little bit. I do think they got maybe too nervous about what they had
Which
done.
I get. I mean, during the time, it's not like comics were huge selling things.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, if I was running the business, I would be worried about it too.
Yeah.
But from a narrative perspective, yeah, it would have been nicer if it had lasted a little bit longer.
All right. Well, the next question comes from Cosmic DM, sending them spacey texts.
There you go. I think you finally refined the drop.
Maybe. I think it could be improved.
Oh, okay.
Cosmic DM asks, any thoughts about Mullet Resurrection Man? What?
He does. So when Superman comes back from his Kryptonian healing,
he's got a
regeneration matrix. He does have a mullet. It's
oh my god,
pretty fucking righteous too.
Clark Kent in the front, Superman in the back.
Superman has some fucking locks for a while. In
really?
The comics when he comes back.
That feels like it would be real not good to see.
Do you know what? It's not my first choice of look for Superman, but like he kind of rocks it.
Speaking of first choice, somewhere he should have gone for that hair.
First choice haircutters. Yeah. Superman comes back from the dead, goes for a $4 haircut.
you know, you don't even need to go to like hairstyling school to work at First Choice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You just walk in with a pair of scissors.
Basically,
like,
yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, don't go there. Yep.
They're not my first choice.
And I mean, it's not like you really need to worry about it.
Fuck you. We get it. I bawled. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I kind of think he rocks the mullet. I mean, it's era appropriate.
It's funny when he shows when he finally resurrects and it's like down, 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 down.
Try to picture like the specific like
slow mode. Like
I'm picturing like a specific editor's like note in the comic that's like hum this tune in your head. While
red light, yellow light, green light, go. He's a Superman for the Superman show. Oh,
nice. Oh no, that's American Woman.
It's kind of. It's very similar.
Kryptonian Super.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of dig the mullet. I wouldn't want it back, but in the 90s, it was a totally fine haircut for him to have.
All right, well, let's go to the next question, which I love. I love this. So first of all, the person's name is Scott Newcomer.
Oh,
and he's a newcomer to this podcast for asking questions.
So is he going to change his name now?
It's like literally officially changing his name to like
Old Kamer.
Just Kamer.
I'm sorry, Scott.
Scott came once.
He's never going to write it.
No, never again.
That's
it's literally. Well, it's funny.
The one and only question from Scott Newcomer.
Let's see what Scott asks. He asks, long-time listener, first-time questioner.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Scott, the constant questioner now.
Is that a constant gardener joke?
Yeah, I was trying to.
What the fuck is happening?
He's the Ray Fiennes of the DC world.
The constant gardener. We couldn't get further from comic books.
Well, you don't know that pop culture reference, the constant gardener.
It's so this is well trod humor.
It's the penultimate of Ray Fiennes' work, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's the second to best. Yeah.
He would say it's the movie that shall not be named.
Fun fact: the constant gardener, he's actually playing Tom Riddle, a young Tom Riddle.
Actually, bodies buried beneath that garden.
That movie's about him making a Horcrux.
Oh my god, it is.
Sorry, what does Scott ask?
He asks, what were the long-term ramifications of the death of Superman in the DC universe?
Right. Well, I've touched on it a little bit. I would say, like, from a meta level, the long-term ramifications are what it did to the concept of death in superhero comics. It became like death or injury or things like that became like just beats in a story. Yep. A thing you did and then undid with relative ease. And I think the lasting legacy of the death of Superman is that it basically like undercut the significance of death in comic books. And there's lots of evidence of that. Now, there are comics that try to counter that. You know, something like Countdown to Infinite Crisis killed Ted Kord, and they put everything into keeping him dead. You know, Booster goes back in time a bunch to try and do it, and they're like, no, it's concrete time, and like all this kind of stuff. They try and do all these things to like keep him dead, or like, keep Barbara Gordon crippled, or like there's a couple of things that seem to push back against that, but that's over 10 years after the death of Superman, right? Think of all of the characters that had either been crippled or depowered or killed and then had come back since then. And that includes Batman, Wonder Woman, Hal Jordan, Oliver Queen, Dinah Lance, you know, you name it, right? Most characters at some point have a death and resurrection, and I think that's the lasting legacy of this comic. Now that seems kind of negative, but I think if you're going to talk about it, that's really what it did. I think it also it like spectacularly burst the speculative bubble of the value of comic books. There are some comic books that will always have a ton of monetary value because they're super rare or whatever. You know, like Action Comics #1 is never not going to be worth something. But so many people were like, Death of Superman, I'm buying this issue. I'm buying 10 of them. I'm keeping them vacuum sealed. They're going to be in a vault in my like bunker. No one's ever going to get at these. And so many people bought them that it was like, it's completely valueless. There's like millions of these out there, or thousands. There's not millions, but you know, there's thousands of these comics out there. They're essentially worthless. I think it really like the other thing is it dropped the bottom out of the collector market.
You go to any dollar bin inside of a comic book store and you're going to find 3 of them.
I paid $1.50 for that one. It's in fucking good condition.
Yeah,
they're worthless.
I mean, the pages are sticky together now, but
hey, do you know what gets me? Just watch the Superman get beaten to death.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna beat myself to death looking at it.
Jesus Christ. But you know what I mean? Like I of course want that. It has value to me. Like it's important to have in my collection. It's an important story and things like that. But from like a collector, like a monetary perspective, like Death of Superman's essentially worthless.
It's true. All right, let's go to the next question then, which comes from Talking Superman. I don't think we could have a Death of Superman episode and not have Talking Superman.
No, this feels appropriate.
Considering we are Talking Superman, we should be Talking Superman.
Shuck you.
Talking Superman asks, if you could have pitched a replacement Superman, who or what would they be?
I guess we're saying instead of like the reign of the Superman, instead of Cyborg Superman or Steel or Superboy or the Eradicator.
Yeah.
It might have been interesting if Bloodwind had sort of stepped up a little bit. Bloodwind was like a Martian Manhunter that wasn't 100% sure that he knew who he was, sort of thing. But, you know, with the powers of Martian Manhunter and the strength of that, it would have been neat if someone like Bloodwind was like, I know I have power and I've sort of been a fringe hero. Maybe it's time I step up and, you know, try to do my thing. The other thing that I find interesting is a flipped version in the New 52. When the New 52 Superman died, Lex basically took it on himself to become a Superman. He changed his armor. He put the crest on it. He wore the New 52 Superman's cape.
Yep.
And for a while was actually a hero. Still for his own purposes and things like that, but was actually trying to save lives, protect the city, you know, and he's wearing the crest. That was interesting too, because that's the thing that Lex always says that he would do. If Superman wasn't in the way, people would see me as the hero. I would be the hero. And then he actually did it in the New 52.
Yeah.
So that might have been an interesting story beat back then.
Yeah, totally.
Would be to see Lex live up to the promise of a world without Superman.
Mm-hmm.
That might have been kind of interesting.
I like that.
What about you?
I would have loved to see sort of Lois become the replacement.
Like get his powers somehow?
Get powers, yeah. And basically you could do a whole arc where she's like trying to get powers and so desperately trying to get powers.
Oh, okay. Like she decides that she needs to live up to or to carry on his.
She sees that nobody is really being who she needs, who they need to be.
Right.
So it's just like her desperately finding a way and maybe even working with Lex to try to do it.
Right. Interesting. I mean, there's an element of that happened in the New 52 as well.
Oh, really?
Because the New 52 Lois got some powers from the dying Superman, became Superwoman, but eventually those powers, I think, like consumed her and she died. And then Lana Lang got the Superwoman powers. But yeah, it's actually interesting that both of these things that we've talked about eventually kind of came to pass.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they certainly would have been groundbreaking back then if they had happened. Yeah,
definitely. Next question comes from, this is the most badass name of anybody.
Let's have it.
Kyle Cravens.
Ooh.
Right?
Oh, let's have it.
See, it sounds like a DC dark character.
Kyle Cravens.
Sorry, what is this?
It's a constant craving joke. It's Katie Lang.
Jeez.
Oh, come on. You did a fucking Constant Gardener joke.
That's better than Katie Lang.
Kyle Cravens.
Wow, I got a job for Kyle now. Kyle just asked, how much are these 20 limited edition sealed Death of Superman comics actually worth?
He has 20 of them?
Yeah.
$100, maybe? No, I mean, listen, the better condition, obviously, and if they're totally sealed, and if they're like the special edition ones or special covers or things like that, obviously they have increased value. But generally speaking, history will look back at the Death of Superman as a bunch of people thinking they were going to make mad fucking bank, and then like thousands of these things sold, and they're not really worth what people expected them to be worth. You know, they're not going to go for like tens of thousands of dollars or anything like that.
Yeesh.
There's too many of them out there. So, a couple $100 maybe.
That's the most valuable information we've ever given out.
I mean, that could be entirely wrong. I'm basically pulling numbers out of my ass. But
no, you can now put that on your insurance. Next question comes from...
I'm just lowballing them so I can buy them.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like,
they're not even worth anything. I can take them off your hands if you...
You know what? I'll dispose of them for you. You don't even want to concern yourself with getting them to the track.
Well, next question comes from Raging G.
Black Lightning?
Yeah, because I'm a Raging G.
I think we're crossing into uncomfortable territory. I don't know that I like this drop.
Yeah.
No.
Raging G asks, is Doomsday a one-trick pony with his only purpose being to kill Superman? Also, for some extra bad memories related to the reign of the Supermen, remember that live-action Steel movie? Yes, remember it. Evil laughs. Keep up the good work. Love the podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. Steel in the comics is much more captivating than that Steel movie. We did talk about that movie for a Patreon episode. So once again, those of you that want to hear us talk about stuff like that, patreon.com/DrDC. Is Doomsday one trick pony? I think we've already touched on this, but essentially, yes. He's just like the force of destruction, basically. It doesn't really matter if they give him slightly different abilities or, like now he uses the Phantom Zone or now he has spores or like whatever. It's all basically the same thing. He's just an unstoppable force that gets stopped because it's a comic book. So he actually is like a total one-trick pony. You're never... I shouldn't say never because things always happen, but it's unlikely and possibly unearned to get an arc where you get a Doomsday that has any sort of like nuance beyond like just being this like insane like rage science experiment. Yeah.
All right, let's go to the next question from Where's My Baby's Reviews?
The kind you find on a secondhand podcast.
Raz asks, as a fan of DC Comics, really? On this show? How did the death of Superman impact you?
I mean, if I'm being honest, it didn't. When it came out, I was 5.
Daddy, why did the Superman go away?
Yeah, I mean, I was 5 years old. I wasn't collecting comics. I wasn't even reading comics at that point.
What about the first time you read it or found out about it?
It didn't get me emotionally or anything like that. By the time I had read it, I had read everything about and around it so many times that I was just like, oh, great, here it is. It was just more, it felt more like a interesting piece, like a museum piece, so like a piece of archaeology or something where it's like, I know where this fits in the story of Superman. It was more like an intellectual exercise than an emotional one.
Mm-hmm.
I will say I was legitimately surprised when they killed him in Batman v Superman, knowing, of course, that they would bring him back.
Yeah.
But the fact that they even did it surprised me. I actually thought when I was watching the movie that he didn't get stabbed straight through the chest, that it was like off to the side and he would just have like a wound or something. And then when he like died, I was like, oh, they fucking did it. They pulled the trigger. I probably had more of a reaction to that, to Batman v Superman, than I ever did to reading the comic or anything like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
How about you? Did this get you in the feels? When you
No,
read it?
not really.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it was a thing that I know that had happened, but I was kind of like,
yeah.
I've never been a big Superman fan, so there was just not enough stakes in it. My favorite book is a Superman book, but it's more of just about the writing and the ambiance and things.
Sure,
like that.
Yeah.
All right, next question comes from our old friend Dave Rossi. Dave!
Dashel, turn off the podcast.
Seriously, turn it off. What are you doing?
If you can, turn it off before we talk about old Kamer, or just came one, or whatever the fuck we called him.
Yeah, seriously, go back in time. All right, Dave asks, since Superman's resurrection, if they killed your favorite character, do you think it would carry any weight?
Yeah, I mean, sort of tied into what we've been talking about. I'm tempted to say no, because I would never assume that, I would never believe that character was gone.
If it killed Aquaman?
But what you can do is you can make you can make the moment mean something to the people in the story. Like, as a reader, I always will assume the character will come back at some point. You know, even if they were gone for like 2 years, I would like get nervous. I would be like, where the fuck did they go?
Yeah.
But you can still make it count in the moment for the characters. So, for example, Batman 40 is the end of the Endgame arc. And as like the cave is crumbling or whatever, Batman and the Joker are fighting to the death. Totally bloodied up. Batman gets like a playing card like in his eye. He's all stabbed and bleeding. The Joker's sort of broken and bloodied. And the cave is collapsing, and they know they're going to die. And Alfred or whoever is like, we got to get you out of there. And Batman just like lays down and says, no, I'm just going to lay here with my friend for a while. And then the cave collapses. That's like nice. That. I mean, who were we kidding? None of us thought that Bruce Wayne was going to be gone. But that's still like, it's an impactful moment. Yeah. It means something. It's well told. It's a
good story. And if you just took that story, gave it to somebody and just goes, and then he died.
Yeah.
It would be a good story.
Exactly. So I think like we all know the broader context of comics. These characters have to keep going.
Yeah. Unless you take somebody who's lesser known.
But you can always make a moment mean something or have emotional impact or things like that. So I do think that you know, there are characters that I love, and if something happened to them and the stories were treated that way, it would affect me. I wouldn't just be like, it's fucking fine. But I don't think I would ever be like distraught or you know, like inconsolable the way that people kind of were when Death of Superman happened, because I thought it was over. You know, what character would do that for you though? What character would get you emotional if you know you saw them die in a comic?
That's tough. I would say somebody like Jim Gordon or
okay.
Or Alfred.
Yeah.
somebody who's just kind of always been there and like that
I mean,
means
I always knew that it would come to this.
yes.
Eventually, the Reaper himself must be reaped.
I can't believe you did this to my family.
I should not have left my journal out. That was a mistake.
Yeah, that's out on Alfie.
I was recording my audio journal. I didn't realize it was connected to the Bluetooth. It was playing all through the manor. Oh, that was a mistake. My bad. Can we not just pretend that we didn't hear it?
Is that our follow up?
That's like
to Alfred Begins.
That's the epilogue. That's like Harry and Ginny dropping the kids off at the train. That's
Oh, you mean terrible?
yeah. It's like, why would you ruin this great thing?
Yeah. Why would you add this extra thing just so that you could call a character by two of the other characters' names? I don't know. Anyways, Dave has a second part. He actually has three parts of this question. Second part is, but let's put these two together. Do you think, for instance, Wally West or Roy Harper will stay dead? Also, do you think they should stay dead?
Yeah, spoiler alert, Heroes in Crisis, Wally and Roy are dead. I mean, like I just said, I don't think they will stay dead forever, but if this story is to have any meaning and not just be a gratuitous bloodbath, they need to die for a bit, you know?
I agree.
But who knows? This story has been pretty divisive. I'm waiting for it to be finished before I really decide whether or not these deaths are worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave Twitter and head on over to the Instagram.
Now we're going to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
Lots of new residents in this episode. I'm really enjoying this. This new person is Robbie's Just This Guy.
Robbie's Just This Guy?
Yeah.
All right, let's have it.
I like that. That's nice. Good to get an Instagram account. Robbie Just This Guy asks, Superboy was a Superman clone for the most part.
Yes.
Which is your favorite Superman clone? Some Bizarro M bad.
I'll take the prompt right from Robbie. I actually like in the New 52 and Forever Evil, I like that version of Bizarro.
Really?
Like Lex's kind of pet that Lex actually has quite a lot of affection for.
Wow.
It's neat to see Lex soften with a version of Superman.
Yeah.
You know, he's Bizarro. Yeah, he's like sort of, he's not that bright or whatever, but that Bizarro shows such like compassion. That Bizarro is afraid of the dark and Lex has to help him. And like, it's actually very sweet. I think that's maybe my favorite version of a clone Superman is that like New 52 Bizarro. I really like that one.
Do any of them really last for very long?
That one sure does.
I mean, that's
he comes to life and dies in that series. He gets his fucking chest punched in.
But this is a different Bizarro, obviously, from like what people know as Bizarro.
It's
Superman.
not like Bizarro from the Bizarro Earth, like Earth 29. This is a clone, a failed clone, an undercooked clone, basically, that has some reversed powers. He has like cryonic vision and heat breath.
Oh, weird.
And things like that. Yeah,
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
All right. Next question from Instagram from KCross202.
For life.
KCross asks, when Superman died, what happens to Lex Luthor? Does he realize that the world needs Superman?
Right.
Do they explore it at all? Like,
yeah. I mean, Lex. This is always a thing, right? Lex always views himself as the actual hero or the actual savior. I think that being said, the absence of Superman, I do think proves to him on some level that Superman has value or importance.
Yeah.
Now, what he does with that changes depending on versions of story, right? Sometimes he denies that, like he recognizes it, he has to recognize it, and then he denies it. He goes like, no, good riddance, blah, 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 blah. Or sometimes, like in the case of the New 52 one, he recognizes it and then he tries to sort of usurp that mantle and
prove himself wrong.
Prove himself better, you know, like to usurp the goodwill of Superman or something like that.
Yeah, he so much doesn't want it to be true that he becomes the hero himself.
I think, and it's either outright denial or he inadvertently actually kind of like lives up to the expectation. But I think either it makes sense. I think all of those versions are valid because the thing that drives Lex, I think, can take him in very different directions. It's part of what makes him an interesting villain is that he's not necessarily always explicitly evil, but like certainly misguided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right, let's leave Instagram and head on to Reddit,
where everything is good and no one's ever mean.
That's right.
Yeah.
We got one question from Synchro Shukin.
Okay.
Which has been this has been a very active on our subreddit.
Oh yes, yeah.
Writer, who actually left us a voicemail too, which we'll listen to after this.
Sure.
Because in the Reddit post he says, "I left a voicemail, but here goes another question." So he's got a lot of questions here at the end for this guy. But you know what? We like our new residents, so
yeah,
get on here and ask some questions, and we'll try to answer them all. Synchro asks, "Why do the spikes on Doomsday get bigger as the fight continues?" I guess they're supposed to signify him getting stronger. Maybe not.
I think he's referring specifically to Batman v Superman. Yes, I think it's about this idea that in that version, instead of it being like he can't be killed the same way twice, it's that as he's taking in this energy, it's improving his defenses, like he's evolving, right? And the evolution of Doomsday is a thing in the comics, and I think that's how the film chose to portray it.
Yeah.
So every time he gets like a wound, it's like a big hard bone that sort of grows in its place. So it's like you obviously can't hurt him the same way because it's not flesh anymore, it's bone. Which is why when Wonder Woman cuts off his hand, then he gets that bone spear that he eventually kills Superman with, right? So I think in the film, that's their interpretation of that sort of evolution part of the Doomsday character. I think that's what that is.
Oh, okay. This rest of this isn't really a question, but I like it. It says, it's also really weird that in the movie he has a mohawk as if the monster is supposed to be in fashion. LOL. Doomsday in Injustice looked weird if I recall, but I don't remember. All I know is I've always liked Doomsday, but watching this movie and seeing him just pummel Superman, it was great. I like Superman, but the guy is too strong, and I like that he actually got beat. I was almost cheering Doomsday on.
Right, so I think we're actually talking about the animated film there. Yeah, they give him a mohawk. He looks super cool. But yeah, I mean, I think a bunch of the rest of this is stuff that we've sort of discussed. Like, a thing that makes the fight at all interesting is that it's not necessarily like a powers fest. It's just sort of fisticuffs, right? He's so strong that he actually can go toe-to-toe with Superman, and then it's just about landing punches, which is pretty brutal and pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have too much more to say about it than that. I think we've touched on that a fair bit, but I do think it adds a level of brutality that the powers kind of take away from that sometimes, but bringing it down to just blow for blow. It's like watching, like Batman fights Bane or something like that. It's like punch for punch or things like that. It takes Superman from being this he can do anything sort of thing to being like, listen, right now he's in the exact same situation any of us would be in a fist fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's listen to some of Synchro's voice messages he sent us.
Let's do it.
Hey, what's up, guys? So
what's up, man?
I just got done watching the Death of Superman movie, and I've known the story for a long time now. I read the book years ago and watched the movie back when it came out, the first one at least. So I decided to watch the new one just now, and I'm confused. I didn't follow the comics super, like, a lot back then, and I'm only 30. I just turned 30 this year, so I'm not really into everything. I don't have a lot of knowledge. So maybe you can help me understand a few things. Like, maybe I don't know if everybody saw, there were a ton of post-credit scenes. Like Hank Henshaw, for instance. How did he become the cyborg Superman? How did that ever happen? I have no idea. in this movie, Lex Luthor is talking to like his assistant or somebody, and he's like, "Who sent Doomsday? Who sent this monster?" And it got me thinking, like, really, who did send it? I was looking on the Wikipedia and stuff, and it said something about the Smallville Doomsday, which looks hilarious, by the way. Terrible costume. And seemed like a Kryptonian clone and whatnot, but I don't know. Like, has there been any definitive explanation of where he came from and why he's went after? Hopefully you guys can help me, please. All right, then. Take it easy, guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot in there.
One of the biggest questions, Hank Henshaw, how did he become?
So yeah, the post-credit scenes of that animated movie are basically setting up the reign of the Superman. You'll set up Hank Henshaw as Cyborg Superman, Con-El, Superboy, the Eradicator, and then John Henry Irons as Steel. So Hank Henshaw, like I said, he was like an astronaut, gets caught in this cosmic thing. He's sort of destroyed, but ends up sort of bonded to like technology and things like that, and ends up building himself a body and gaining a lot of the powers of Superman. How are they exactly going to do it in that movie? I'm not sure, because like I said, even though it's more faithful to the comic books, it still is an adaptation. It's not 100% the way that the comic is. So I don't exactly know what they're going to do for Hank Henshaw there. But what those post-credit scenes are doing are just giving you glimpses of those 4 sort of pretenders to the throne that we'll see in Reign of the Supermen. I sort of suspect that Hank Henshaw I think it'll be probably pretty close to the comics, I would think.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there'll be little tweaks or something like that. But yeah, I'm interested to see. Some of the other stuff. Yeah, he touched on, there was a Doomsday in Smallville, and it is a super shitty costume. Really? It looks so shitty in live action. Again, it's probably the best they could fucking do.
But just like, why did
and
they
for
do it?
Maybe with their budget or things like that, it's probably great.
Yeah.
But it's not that good.
No.
Let's see what else was in there. Where did Doomsday come from? Doomsday, in general in the comics, he's like an ancient like Kryptonian monster. In some versions, it's like a deliberate science experiment to make a being that basically can't be killed, and in some cases, he's more of like a natural kind of horror from Krypton that's trapped in the Phantom Zone. But in general, yeah, Doomsday does have Kryptonian origins. So that's another sort of adaptation that Batman versus Superman took, was he's made from the genetic material of the deceased General Zod, right? So that Doomsday also has a Kryptonian origin. They reference like the horror without name, like it's that there was a version of this in an ancient past of Krypton too. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, yeah, Doomsday does have a Kryptonian origin, but he's like ancient, not necessarily like contemporary of Jor-El or things like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was awesome. Well, thank you for sending in that voicemail. That's great. I love when you guys like to hear from you, like your actual voices. It's cool. But that's the end of the questions, which you know what that means.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I know.
Fuck.
I can go first because
it's Dial Doc.
Yeah, it's Dial Doc, which means that each episode we try to come up with a character that's we get the idea from the old Dial H for Hero comics, which basically you go in a phone booth, you dial Hero or what was it, Evil or something?
Yeah.
And you get you become either a hero or a villain for like a very small period of time. So we try to come up with our own random character. If you dial Doc, you got some random character that you get turned into for maybe like 24 hours or something.
I think it's usually meant to be a bit shorter than that. But
yeah. So I was just thinking of one a minute ago. So something that we were talking about killing off characters. This is a little bit of a meta character.
Okay.
The character's name is Hand of God.
Okay.
And and basically they go through all of the offensive-ish characters from the years and just kill them off one by one. It's sort of like a Dextery type.
And what's their name again?
Hand of God.
Okay, yep.
And it's it's very like a Morrison-esque, I think, it would be written, and it basically just goes through and over the course of like one arc, basically just like just kills all of these characters who should have been killed off and deserve a death in these.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. So my character is called Seeing Eye Frog.
I want to know how you got to this.
It's like a humanoid frog, but on the end of the long tongue that shoots out is like an eye that has like psionic abilities, and it basically like sees into your soul and then makes you like live like your worst nightmares.
Oh my god, it's kind of like
that's
the Hypnotoad.
Yeah. Oh fuck yeah. God damn it! This is like that time I thought I was writing a Meatloaf musical. I was just writing Footloose.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I'm basically ripping off Hypnotoad, I guess. But yeah, Seeing Eye Frog. That's what I've got. Damn it! I was more proud of that. Oh fuck. Son of a bitch.
It's slightly different. It's okay.
All good ideas have already been done.
It's just very funny that it's like, what are the odds that you come up with like a hypnotic frog? Like,
I'm so upset because I was not deliberately trying to rip that off.
It's just like, what are the odds that two people even came up with that character?
Fuck.
It's so funny.
Well, I've said it now. So.
Yeah, well, you know what? We would love to hear you. We love hearing your guys' characters that you come up with. Every week that you guys send those, they're always so great. And when you do, we like to read them online. The only way that we're going to be able to do that, though, is if you send the hashtag #DialDoc and give us your hero, your villain, you're somewhere in the middle, maybe. But you can also just send us questions. You can. Do we have a next? Oh, it's DocMas.
It's DocMas.
So you can send us anything.
Send any question you want.
Any question.
Doesn't have to be on a theme or anything.
No, just any question you want us to talk about.
Can be a meta question about the podcast or about us.
Yeah,
anything you want.
Anything. So just you can send it through our various social media accounts.
Facebook, Dr. DC Podcast.
Twitter,
at Dr. DC.
I felt like you were going to say something, and then you just said the thing that I should have said, which was weird.
Well, just pick it up a slack.
Oh, son of a bitch. Instagram.
Dr. DC Podcast.
Our email.
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
And get on our subreddit.
r/Dr_DC.
They're having some hilarious conversations on there.
Yeah.
There's a few people who are active on there, and we always have a lot of fun talking with you. And it's a great place to chat with us because there's no limit to the amount that you can write. So, but also, not only can you talk to us, you can also read some of our DC specific articles or view some of those new shirts that we released.
Totally.
You can get that all on our website,
drdcpodcast.com or .ca.
And then finally, you can call us. The Doc phone is now open. Leave us a voice message at 208-917-DCEU. That's 208-917-3238. And then also get on our Patreon. We're every Friday we're releasing an extra episode of Doc, a double dose of the Doc every week.
Patreon.com/DrDC.
That's right. And then finally, don't forget to subscribe and rate and review us. We got a review from the Doc's wife, Mrs. Dr. DC, today.
That's right. We're all through the spouse's reviews, so we need yours now.
Desperately. So get the best ones that we can get are from iTunes because those rankings really, really help us out and help us get seen by other people who aren't you. Get more people you can chat with about DC stuff, more questions, more random opinions and perspectives. The only way we can do that is if we get on those lists of like the new and noteworthy and things like that.
Totally.
And the best way to do that is to get lots of reviews and rating us 5 stars on iTunes. So do that, and then we'll actually read whatever you wrote to us on the next episode. So make sure you do that, and we'll see you the next time you hear from me. I will be starting my journey into into being more drunk than I've ever been drunk.
It'll be DocMas. We're already there again.
We've got some really fun guests, some that you've heard before, some surprises, some just a ton of stuff that we're planning for DocMas. So get ready for our journey into the Christmas season and our countdown to Christmas itself with DocMas. So we'll see you next week.
That's right.
Same same Doc sled, same Christmas season.
Nice.
Ciao, ciao.
Adios.
Aquaman, all the superheroes. They always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure. They are men of might.
This was a Brain Freeze podcast.